I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Coolidge City Council to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Norma, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gilbert Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Huddleston.
Here.
Mayor John Thompson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jackie Henry. Councilmember Gary Lewis.
Here. Sorry.
Councilmember Tatiana Murrieta. Here. Thank you.
First order of business is a proclamation, Constitution Week 2015.
She didn't call me. She was going to call me.
Discussion only. I'm going to read. Here we go. Proclamation, Constitution Week 2015. Whereas September 17, 2015 marks the 228th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through September 23rd, 2015 as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, John Thompson, Mayor of the City of Coolidge, do hereby proclaim September 16th through September 23rd, 2015 as Constitution Week in the City of Coolidge, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787. Okay.
Mayor, we had no one show up tonight, but this is the same request from a year ago from the Daughters of the Revolution, that Ms. Piggott and Ms. Nancy Zales. So once again, we're just bringing it forward.
Okay.
It's been a year already.
Well, time flies.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Item number 4, presentation by Mr. Jim Dinkle, Executive Director for Access Arizona. Good evening, Mr. Dinkle.
Good evening. My name is Jim Dinkle. I'm the Executive Director of Access Arizona. This is the first time I've met several of you or had the chance to address council since you took your seats earlier in the year. Just a little background for you. We are a 31-year-old nonprofit organization handling regional economic development for Western Pinal County. I have 5 groups of bosses. I have the Eloy City Council as a boss. I have the Coolidge City Council as a boss, the Casa Grande Council as a boss, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors as a boss, and of course my Access Arizona Board of Directors. They are my 5th group of bosses. We are a staff of 2 people. To begin a little bit about the projects, I want to update you that we're working on. And again, I don't think it's bad that we're a staff of 2 people with the workload we're trying to handle. First of all, we're working on what's known as Project Sapphire. Some of these projects are given nicknames by the Arizona Commerce Authority. That's a large 900 to 1,000 acre real estate project for an advanced manufacturer. That's the only information we have, but we have submitted a site within Pinal County for consideration. Second, we're working with a commercial bakery called Ganella Baking in Chicago to build a $30 million factory on a site to be determined in Pinal County. Ganella you've probably never heard of, but they are the official hot dog bun of Wrigley Field and one of the largest such commercial bakeries in the United States. It's a family-owned business. We are working with what's known as Project Internal, which, like Ganella, was a lead generated from within our office. Project Internal is a distribution center and logistics firm headquartered in Illinois that's looking for sites within central Arizona. Fourth, Project 78, which is a multi-billion-dollar project. Rick, I don't know if you may have been involved in that. Project 78 is a consumer products company. It's a multi-billion-dollar project that the Arizona Commerce Authority brought to us 2 years ago. We continue to work on that project and supply information. We work in collaboration on that project with the county and several local units of government within Pinal County where that site is looking, or that project is looking. I just came from a meeting this afternoon with a cellulose insulation manufacturer from Georgia. They are in an active search for a site. Rick, I'd like a few minutes of your time after this meeting tonight to give you those qualifications while the gentleman's in town visiting this week. Next, we're working on the expansion of a plastics injection molding plant, which would add 16 jobs and close to $7 million in new investment in the community of Eloy. Speaking of Eloy, we're also working in collaboration with the community outreach of Robeson Ranch on a Heart of Eloy thrift shop in the downtown there to fund children's needs such as shoes and school materials and so forth that they may need. Our organization has recently sponsored trainings. Dennis actually Fitzgibbons was a presenter on business succession planning. We had 24 people attend that, family businesses and sole proprietorships, people wanting to know what they would do with their business once they passed on or went out of business, and some really good ideas emerged from that. We sponsored a What Can Central Arizona College Do for Your Business seminar. It was a breakfast attended by 100 people. That was about 1 month ago, and good feedback we've received from that about job training grants and so forth that are available that some businesses don't know about from CAC. And in January, we're going to sponsor a community-wide meet and greet for snowbirds and Canadians who may have businesses at home or may have family members they can network us with, but why just come part of the year when maybe you could spend more of the year and more of your dollars in Pinal County. We participated in late June in the American Woodworking and Furnishing Show in Las Vegas. The focus on that this year was biomass, and there were quite a few Asian logistics companies and importers present, and a lot of good information was brought back from that show. This past Thursday, kind of talking internally about some of our activities, we had a half-day retreat. Dennis was there at that meeting. Some good ideas came of that. Some of the things we're looking at doing, we're going to begin rotating our monthly board of directors meetings around the county. We had one at the Artisan Village here 2 months ago, and we're going to get these out of Casa Grande and around the county more monthly. We are also going to, I think this worked really well in the beginning, Wednesday business hours in Coolidge. So Wednesdays I plan to spend the entire day here in Coolidge, and that'll start actually next week. So finally, and speaking of the Artisan Village, in our 2016 budget, I am putting in $5,000. My recommendation to the Board of Directors that we, on a 4-year basis, each year give $5,000 to become a stakeholder as Access Arizona in the Artisan Village of Coolidge. So that's all I have. I'd welcome any questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dinkle. Are there any questions from anyone up here?
Jim, now you said you're going to put in a request for the $5,000 a year for Artisan Village. When is that going to be decided on?
That'll be voted on. It'll be presented at our November board meeting and then voted on in December.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dinkle.
If I could add one more thing, too. Part of what I intend to do here on Wednesdays, I've talked extensively at our board meeting. I'm giving a presentation in October. We are going to begin advancing an effort called Community Wealth Building. And again, on a separate occasion, I'd be happy to come and give a presentation about that. But that is where, sort of like community economic gardening, you work to really strengthen your stakeholders in the community, your anchor businesses, your anchor institutions. And again, I'm going to provide Rick and Lynn more information about community wealth building. I think Coolidge as well as Eloy are both prime communities for this new program that originated in Boston. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is the monthly report and business spotlight recognitions by the Coolidge Chamber of Commerce, and there's Lynn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, this month for our spotlight is the City of Coolidge. And Mayor, if you would accept this award from the Chamber of Commerce. What this is about is the City of Coolidge's beginnings in 90 years ago when R.J. Jones originally plotted here. But what we're really celebrating with Coolidge Days is 70 years of being incorporated. So it's just a proud honor and a proud moment that we want to celebrate.
I'll accept this for the City of Coolidge. Thank you very much for recognizing us, but this is an award that goes to all those that have come before us, as well as the current council, so thank you very much.
Well, if you noticed in our newsletter this time, we had a list of all the mayors that we've had, thanks to Norma, in that period. On to our new investments, our reinvestments for July. Norse Management, Future Forward Foundation, Inc., Supply 29, Colonel Richard Listard, Arizona Captured Beauty, DNG Construction, Access Arizona, Custom Cuts by Celeste, and Grant D. Walton. And our new members for July are Unique Beauty Supply and Boutique, Little Caesars, and Discovery Mart Chevron. That's just, they changed ownership, but they've been a member all along. Statistics for July are our web hits are up from 49,000 to 170,000. Our walk-ins are way up. I'm telling you, moving to the boulevard there does make it increase it greatly, up to 490 versus 243 last year. Phone calls are a little down, but I think that could be because of what they're coming in and checking it out. Top state that visited us was New Mexico. We didn't have any from the foreign countries in July. It was pretty hot then anyway. Casa Grande Ruins for July, we had 2,936 visitors. Year to date would be 53,086. And upcoming events are, we have our membership luncheon this Wednesday, September 16th. We have a young artisan program on September 18th. And we have September 23rd, there's a hiring event from the Arizona Workforce. History Hub is on September 25th. CYC is having a golf tournament on the 26th. And they're going to be starting guitar lessons on September 28th. Lots more if you want to go to coolidgechamber.org. That's all I have.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the award.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is call of the public. And this is the time in the meeting where if you have something to address the council, or you want to say, you have 3 to 5 minutes to come up to the podium, state your name and your address, and utilize your 3 to 5 minutes, keeping in mind that we can't respond to what you say. So if you're interested, is that gentleman right there? Nope, I guess not. For a minute, I was excited somebody was going to come up. Okay, see nobody approach, then I guess we're going to move right through. Bob, you look a little anxious. You okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, in that case, we'll move through the call of the public, and we will go to approval of minutes, discussion, and action. Item number 6, City Council regular meeting, August 10th, 2015. Item 7, City Council study session, August 24th, 2015. And item 8, City Council regular meeting, August 24th, 2015. Okay. Do I have any corrections, anything anybody needs to correct the motion? Are we good with these? Do I have a motion?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
With no other discussion, Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes as read.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, business items for consent. I'm going to ask the council if there's any items that they want pulled off the consent agenda before I read them all.
10.
10 and 11? Okay, so 10 and 11 will be pulled off, and I will read 9, 12, 13, and 14. Number 9, consider approval of entering into an intergovernmental agreement number 2015-1 regarding reimbursement of salary, overtime, and employee-related expenses incurred due to the Coolidge Police Department's participation in the Pinal County Narcotics Task Force ACJA grant, Dog Charlie 16010. Item 12, consider approval of adopting updated material reconsideration policy and form, programs policy, library tours policy, volunteer policy, and library behavior policy for the Coolidge Public Library. Item number 13, consider approval to unfreeze the capital budget to purchase one lawnmower from Tractor Supply Company in Coolidge in the amount of $9,005.69 for the Parks Department. And item number 14, consider approval of entering into an addendum to agreement with Alhambra School District IFB number M10-26-15 between the City of Coolidge and Sunland Asphalt for the FY15-16 street work program in an amount not to exceed $200,000. Okay. On those items, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve is read.
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll go back to item 10. Consider approval of purchasing 30 Axon body cameras from Taser International in the amount of $1,046,253.37, utilizing awarded Gila River Indian Community Grant Funds and utilizing an Arizona State contract, ADSPO 15-080208 bid, authorizing city manager to execute the necessary documents. You wanted that one?
I actually misread it, and I have nothing to say on this. I make a motion to approve it as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chief. Way to rush up there, buddy.
I thought it was this one.
Okay, we got item number 11. Consider approval of adopting the Title 6 implementation plan for the Transit Department in compliance with the Arizona Department of Transportation and Federal Transit Administration requirements, and that's Jill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, you do have before you the Title VI implementation plan. Title VI refers to the compliance that we have in the transit program, that no person on the grounds of race, color, national origin, or disability be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under the City of Coolidge Transit's program. You'll notice there is a implementation plan about Title VI, which includes the full compliance in terms of how to report a complaint or a concern, what the investigation process is, that we do have a method for identifying if there are complaints or lawsuits filed. There's a public participation plan of how the public can comment and be part of the transit plan for our application each year, and then a limited English proficiency plan as required by federal statute. I am happy to answer any questions that council may have this evening.
My question is, how much does the restrictions or the requirements, how much involvement do they have in dictating the routes that we already, does this have anything to do with them dictating to us routes, approvals, things like that?
No, the City of Coolidge has full responsibility and authority to identify the type of service that we want to provide. If you pick from certain categories of services, there may be restrictions. If you do what's called a fixed route service, that's a route where you only stop at programmed locations, then you do have to offer what's called complimentary paratransit. The city of Coolidge in the past has chosen not to do that. We operate what's called a deviated fixed route service. So we do stop at bus stops, but if somebody wants to pay a higher fare and have us deviate a quarter mile off of the route, we will do so. And it does not matter if they're able-bodied or disabled or any other factor, that type of thing. So we do a little more of a customized service, and that was chosen by council on staff's recommendation as to what works best for this or for us. We just can't deny somebody service because of disability or color or national origin. That's basically what's in compliance here, or in the ability to speak English. We have to be able to offer services to everyone in the community.
Okay, anybody else? Down here. Okay, hearing nothing further, I would ask for a motion.
Motion to approve is read, sir.
Motion is second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Move into business regular items. Item number 15, consider approval of making the first quarterly payment to Access Arizona in the amount of $4,455 for the FY 15-16 membership. Discussion and action. Well, we've heard the presentation. In getting ready for this, I'll open the discussion, I guess. In getting ready for this, I asked our finance department to find out how much money we've paid. I've been on the, and I asked him to go back. Gilbert's been on here longer than I have. Councilmember Lopez has been on here longer than I have. But I've been on here since 2002. And I asked that department to go back and look and see how much money the city of Coolidge has spent on, and it wasn't always Access Arizona, but it was the same group, not exact same group, but it was the same organization, if you will. And since 2002, we've spent $300,000 as a city with this organization. And I can still remember, and I'm sure that Councilmember Lopez can, I thought Lori Gary did a pretty good job, and I think Mr. Dinkle does a pretty good job. But in between, there's certainly been a big shortfall. And I can tell you that every time, well, let me go back. And this is one of those where you got to try to be politically correct. I've attended their last 3 meetings, well, other than the retreat they had. And to me, economic development for Coolidge is doing something for Coolidge. It isn't just taking our check and seeing that Casa Grande continues to grow and Eloy continues to get looks and Coolidge continues to do nothing, to get nothing, I should say. And yeah, we've had a little bit of activity here lately, but a lot of that has been due to other things. And well, I can tell you right now, well, I'm not going to tell you what my vote's going to be, but I think you'll be able to tell yourselves when I get through saying this. I've watched it for many years, and it's unfortunate they finally have somebody in the organization that I think would come over here if they would let him. After I attended the board meetings, I was kind of discouraged. I mean, we pay them almost $18,000 a year right now. We're asking for $5,000 really of our own money to help out Artisan Village, which whether you like Artisan Village or don't like Artisan Village, it is truly economic development for the city of Coolidge. When people move to your community and buy houses so they can work at Artisan Village, then that's economic development. Because eventually they'll buy cars and they eat here. And so when I go to a group and I sit in on a meeting and I get negative feedback because their budget's in trouble, well, our budget's in trouble too. And we've been spending $18,000 a year for the last, I don't know how long has it been since they lowered it, Bob?
We started way back in 1992 with joining the Regional Economic Development Authority. back in the days when it was a greater Casa Grande area regional.
So they lowered it to $18,000.
Yeah.
Probably, what, 4 or 5 years ago, or what?
Well, Jim Dinkle was, we have to compliment Jim Dinkle for lowering it, because it was in around the $30,000 mark.
It was a lot more.
And but now he's got it down to a population figure.
And I guess the bottom line is it's nice that somebody's finally going to come over here, but again, it goes back to, will the board let him do it? I don't know. I know Mr. Tinkle came through with some of the ideas at the board meeting I was at, and I didn't see anybody exactly get too excited about helping us out. So I think, based on my experience on the council all these years, and my experience as the mayor for the last 8 months, I think we could probably find a better way to use our money than giving it to somebody who's going to give it to Eloy and Casa Grande. That's just my opinion. Everybody up here has their own vote, and I'll open it up now to whoever wants to say anything. I'll start with Gilbert, because he's usually the balance.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, it's I think we're at a kind of an interesting place now with the annexation of the 11,000 acres. It places us in a better position to attract business. As we said, it brings us within 5 miles of the interstate. So I know that the organization Access Arizona gets, as Mr. Dinkle covered it, things from the ACA, the Arizona, the Economic Development branch of the state, and they give them parameters of what they need. So they go out and look at all the different properties throughout all the cities. So that's a positive thing. You know, that's the one thing I see that they do that keeps us kind of in the forefront. So you know, it is true that we haven't had a lot of activity recently as far as, but you know, we're regional. You have to look at economic development regionally, and I understand the frustration. I mean, it is frustrating to not see things coming in, but I think we're starting to see some activity in our downtown, not the downtown so much as down the boulevard. When I look at McDonald's and all that, so, and Artisan Village is a big step in that direction, I think. The fact of putting an incubator and all that, if Access Arizona was going to go in and become a partner in that, I think that would be pretty important. But the vote won't take place for a while, so I don't know if that's, you know, but I certainly don't want to have a void. I talked to some of the chamber, and the chamber does a great job, except they're not economic development specialists. You know, I mean, they help the local businesses. They could help in the economic gardening, but to go out and look for outside, you know, they could help in the interior if that's what we want to do. You know, and that's how we want to spend the money. But to keep our focus on to have an entity working the outside, I think you have to have someone like Access Arizona, and maybe it's not the full 18. You know, I don't know. If you can't be a partner unless you pay the full 18, I don't know. So, but I would support at least one more quarter and see what happens with the things he's trying to do, and then see if he can show some progress. That would be my opinion at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been on the city council now for 6 years, and when I was appointed about 6 years ago, I went to a meeting with Bob Flatley and Mayor Shope at the time, and myself, and I was ready. When I got done with the meeting, I was very high on Access Arizona. I thought that they were probably our best avenue to bring business in here, and as it has changed, I know quite a lot of the board members have changed and have retired, and I was always for it. And about 3 or 4 months ago, I heard a rumor that they were going to donate $5,000 to the Artisan Village, and it never came about. It's hard, like Mayor Thompson said, we spend $18,000 a year on this, and it was a lot more previous to that. And I believe at the time when they started, I think Florence and also Maricopa was a part of this Access Arizona, whatever it was before. Of course, Florence is Florence. I mean, they could close their eyes and still bring in business and money. I mean, they got Anthem, they got the prisons. Like I said, they can close their eyes and still survive. And in Maricopa, I think Maricopa is more Maricopa County anymore than it is Pinal County. They're pretty much growing faster than any other community in Pinal County. When Artisan Village came aboard, and that was brought up about individuals that really didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They had an idea. They spent a lot of money and time and investment in this, and look what it's become. I mean, it's actually become something like Mayor Thompson said, that people are actually coming in and buying homes. And whether they buy a car here, you know, they're paying property tax. They're buying food here. They're spending, they have city sales tax that they're spending here in the city, which generates income for the city. And it's all about generating income, generating money for the city to survive. Mr. Dinkle does a great job, and he's probably in a terrible situation at this time. But I don't know if our money might not be better spent giving maybe the Chamber of Commerce a little bit more money. Maybe giving the city of Coolidge, letting that money be spent on our website. I know people Google everything. I mean, they Google phone numbers, they Google addresses. And if I'm a businessman in Minnesota and I'm thinking about coming to the state of Arizona, I would Google maybe the city of Coolidge. So maybe spending our own money locally here with the Artisan Village, giving them money to survive. They got a pretty healthy payment that's due pretty soon, and giving some more to the Chamber of Commerce, and maybe taking a little bit of the money that we're paying to Access Arizona and giving it back to the city, or letting the city spend some money on their website, and maybe trying something ourselves. It won't hurt, even if we do for 6 months. We can always come back aboard with Access Arizona. I just think, you know, it's time to take care of our own home, and that's my opinion.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I definitely agree. Keep the money local. I'd be all in favor of giving the money back to the people and lowering the budget every chance we get. So I'm in favor of keeping the money local and doing it more personal.
If we didn't have Access Arizona, who would be out looking for us? The chamber? Or, I don't know. I'm asking. If we don't have Access Arizona, because I am new to the council, so I don't have the years of
There are other
experience.
organizations, and we can certainly have that conversation at any time. I mean, maybe not tonight, but I don't know, maybe Mr. Flatley, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah,
Because
our Coolidge Economic Development Council, which is CEDC, has really been put together to promote economic development. And one of the things I know Rick is working on is inventory of all the vacant lots and buildings in town. Once that's together, we can market that ourselves and attract people into Coolidge that way.
Okay.
anything else?
Nope.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of things I wanted to add on to something Councilman Lopez said. We have annexed, pretty much 5 miles north of the I-10, taken in a lot of property that has some great value when it comes to industrial growth. And if I'm not mistaken, we do have some potential in the front running for some big projects due to the work of Mr. Miller and the economic development team and the CEDC and whoever else is involved with him doing that. To my knowledge, something that Access Arizona wasn't directly involved with. I have attended the Access Arizona meeting since, I think, the last few meetings. When there was a presentation to Mr. Miller, I always forget his other name. Mr. Malpass, yeah, we went to give a presentation on the Artisan Village, which, other than the excitement by Mr. Dinkle, it doesn't seem like very many people on the board were excited about our excitement. So they pretty much tabled that issue, went to another meeting because we were under the impression that that was going to be discussed, and the reaction just seemed like nobody else other than Coolidge folks were interested in helping us. It kind of saddens me that now in this presentation, Mr. Dinkle talks about asking the board for the money after we'd already tabled this once, so it's kind of like the fear of losing their $18,000 a year, so we better do what they want because, it's going to help them in the long run. I'm not a big fan of that kind of tactic, and I don't think that's what was being done. I think, up here we were looking at the best interests in the city. And I do think the Artisan Village is up and coming. A lot of the stuff they're doing, they're getting for free, and then the people who are doing the work are doing it for free. I know Mr. Miller puts in a lot of his time. Mr. Malpass, I think that's his second, third, and fourth job right now. He does a lot of work, and I think although it's not a city department, it's in our city, it's going to bring nothing but good to our city, and we need to do our part in helping that flourish. And I think placing maybe not all, but some of these funds that we were spending on Access Arizona towards that, maybe for the remainder of the year, and then look at down the road something different. But that's all I got. But with that said, Mayor, if there's no other discussion, I have a motion.
I don't think there is. Does anybody have any?
I just
Go ahead.
just wanted to add one thing that would be really good that I know we're missing, that I see other cities doing up in the valley, is we don't advertise or help the monument advertise up in the valley to get more people down here. Because all the big cities up there do those big signs that come up on I-10. I mean, even Glendale's advertising out there, and I drive by and see all these other cities, and I'm like, Coolidge should be, and I know it's money, but it's just a thought. I mean, a lot of people drive by, hundreds of thousands of people. And if it says the Artisan Village and home of the Capitan National Monument, Coolidge, Arizona, come by and visit or something, I mean, you may get some tourists, that's money we haven't had put into that kind of thing, but I know it equals, sometimes you get dollars out of it, so we haven't had that kind of money before, so maybe trying to do something like that first quarter and then see what happens, like you said. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there because it's something I think about every time I drive by those signs for the last 20-something years.
Well, I know that this council will be having a retreat. There's a number of things that we'll probably talk about, and I think we can talk about it then. And this is certainly not a reflection on Mr. Dinkle's performance. It's unfortunate that, it's leaning this way now from what I hear, but the bottom line is we spent $300,000 since 2002, and and after sitting through some of their meetings, I see that the guy driving the bus could have very good intentions, but the guys that are selecting the routes ensure what goes on, and that's kind of where I saw the issue. So, as Councilmember Lewis said, and I know Councilmember Marietta was at one of those meetings, I attended 3 of them, and I didn't see anybody that had any real concern about what we were interested in and our interest. So, and hearing that, if there's no other conversation.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we do not renew the membership to Access Arizona. And with that, I would like to include in that motion to make a donation with that to the no, can't do that? All right. Well, I just make a motion to not renew the membership.
I second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so that's 4-2.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 16. Consider approval of entering into a gift agreement between Ironwood Development Company, Inc. and Arizona Corporation and the City of Coolidge, and approval of the special warranty deed for the acceptance of the property located in Section 6, Township 7 South, Range 8 East of the Gila River Basin Meridian, Pinal County, Arizona, being gifted to the City of Coolidge. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we were annexing the Pinal Mesa 1 annexation area, which I have an exhibit up on the screen for you. We were working with one of the proponents of this annexation, was Mr. Glenn McCullum. He signed off on the annexation petition. He has a very unusually shaped piece of property, a very unusual shaped property that I'll show you here in just a minute. But following the annexation, he contacted my office and said, he's would be interested in gifting this land. He has no interest in developing it. He just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And it's an unusual shape, but it does have developability on part of it. This is the property. Long flag lot. This part of it that runs nearly a mile long is along a canal, and this is the part right here of the between Cornman Road and Selma Highway. Basically 2 miles to the west of 87 is the property that would be more developable. This is Probably gonna right about 8 acres here, and they're totally combined. We're looking at a little bit more than that, but he wanted to know if we would be interested in accepting that property through a donation agreement. I told him that we would put it on the council agenda for your review and consideration. You say, what do we do with it? Well, the long stretch runs along a canal system. Eventually that could be part of a city parks and trails system. You know, oftentimes trails run along those linear features. That's what we kind of described in our general plan update. So that could be used for that kind of recreational amenity. The corner down there on the section line, at the midsection line, could be used potentially for a future fire station or a police substation or a park of some sort as this area develops in the future. So I think that the city would be well served in accepting the donation of the property if he's willing to give it to us. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm going to start down here. Councilmember Dunn.
Nope.
And you're okay with this?
I'm fine with it. I think it'd be a good gesture on our part to help him. He helped us with the annexation. Not that wasn't we didn't make that negotiation, but he was very supportive of our annexation effort.
Okay, down here, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. Rick, do you know if have they done a phase 1 environmental on any of that property?
No, we did not do a phase 1 environmental.
One thing we don't want to do is get stuck with some big spill that we're not aware of, and we get a big cleanup bill.
It's a good point. We have not paid for a phase 1 environmental on it.
They're not that expensive, but at least you'd find out for risk management purposes whether
We can do some research on that. Absolutely.
That looks for phase 1 looks for any sort of contaminants or toxins that we accidentally spill on it, and so if we buy it, then we're responsible for cleaning it up no matter what. So you got to be careful. And if we do a phase 1, then we'd be okay. Or due diligence, we can do it just looking at the records and make sure we're safe.
Absolutely. In fact, if I can do that internally, I can go out there and review it myself, look at things, do some record research. Most of this is an open canal, but on the one end down there, we could actually go out and look at some old aerial photographs, do some research. I have a good friend that could maybe look into some historical records for us, but I'm not aware of any problems there today. But I can't say that I have investigated.
It sounds great that somebody's trying to.
Yep.
For the linear park system, I think that's a great idea. So thank you.
So there's no, Mr. Fitzgibbons, if we table we can table this if we want and put it on the agenda for the next time. Item number 16.
Right, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure exactly how long it would take to get the phase 1 done. The agreement's set up, though, in such a way that if for some reason the owner had spilled something on the property, if you will, and knew about it, then he'd be responsible for it. We wouldn't become responsible simply because we're the owner. And you'll see in the agreement, the way it's written, it talks about us not being a successor in interest to him. It's more we are taking over the property. So we're responsible for anyone that gets hurt on the property or for any spills or anything like that we do to the property once we take over. But as we know, for those that were here during the regional park days, it's pretty difficult a lot of times to try to figure out, because the owner would only be responsible, the current owner would only be responsible for what happened when he owned it. So if someone prior to him would have come in and buried something or something like that, now you're going back trying to find an owner, which a lot of times were old LLCs or corporations that simply don't exist anymore. So if council would like to approve the agreement upon the city getting a phase 1 that's acceptable to the city manager, you could do it that way, or you could simply say, let's table it until we get the phase 1. Once the phase 1 is done and completed, we can bring it back to council to see whatever council wants to do.
Mr. Miller, do you think that would be an issue, or should we go with option number 1 and approve it, if we're going to approve it, upon acceptable phase 1?
I think that's a good thing to do. I know Mr. McCullum purchased this property on back taxes. Somebody else before him didn't pay the taxes, and I think that's how he acquired it. So I'm sure that he doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge about what's been done on the property prior to him becoming the owner of this property. So I think a phase 1 environmental assessment would be appropriate. It cost us a little bit of money. I'm not sure what the amount would be, but it would be worth it probably to do a little investigation there.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we can make the motion the phase one environmental or equivalent, because you can do this, you can do all the steps without actually having a phase one and still do the
Site assessment.
due diligence, site assessment, and find out whether it's
I
there
think
without
we
paying.
want, we're going to want somebody who's a reputable company that, we're going to want somebody we can sue if they screw it up.
Yeah, with insurance, yeah.
Spoken like a true lawyer. Well, so, okay.
I think Mr. Hudson, something?
Yeah, I think, land is a great commodity, and once you give it up, it's hard to get it back. And any land that the city can acquire is great for the city of Coolidge. And I think the taxes are like $682 a year, which is very minimal fiscal impact for us. The value of the property, who knows what it might be down the road. So I agree, if we can make sure we don't have any liability, I have no problem in doing it.
I think that's good advice. Remember when we visited the town of Gilbert as a council, and one thing they said is if you own a piece of land as a city, hold on to it. Don't give it up.
Oh, I agree.
Well, anybody, Councilmember?
Sure.
Okay, we've got an item here. Does anybody want to
Mayor?
make a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 16 with a stipulation that we do the stage 1 economical study. Environmental study.
Assessment.
Sorry, I'm thinking money still.
Second.
Okay, did you get that, Norma?
Yes, I did, thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 17, resolution number 15-30, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Coolidge, Arizona, authorizing the submission of an application with the Arizona Commerce Authority for up to $250,000 in funding from the Arizona Rural Economic Development Grant Program to complete public taxi lane improvements at the Coolidge Municipal Airport, and authorizing all actions necessary to implement and complete the activities outlined in said application. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this grant application is the similar grant process that we were very successful in obtaining funds to do the Randolph Road improvement next to Stinger Bridge and Iron, which we recently completed, closed out that grant, and so we're now eligible to apply for more of those funds. These funds are allocated to rural communities. There's a limitation on how much a community can get in the way of funding. It's less now than it was when we applied previously. Now the maximum a city can get is $250,000. And they will only let their monies be used for eligible project costs. And those costs typically are those costs that are associated with the construction of the project. It does not include design, does not include engineering, lab testing, quality assurance. It won't cover bid preparation or construction management services. Those are ineligible costs when you do a project. In looking at this grant application, we felt that we had a public improvement that would potentially allow the city to promote some job growth and economic development within the community at our airport. We have had conversations in the past about trying to extend a taxiway or a taxi lane that would open up more sites on the airport property in an area that could provide better service to some of our existing tenants, and Mr. Terry Glass is one of them. Plus it would open up some other large hangar lots that could be potentially put out for potential leaseholders to come in and make offers on. The graphic in front of you here on the screen illustrates a plan to extend taxiway A2, which is the east-west taxiway, approximately 1,000 feet to the east of taxiway A, which is the north-south taxiway. So the intersection of taxiway A2 and A, we're looking at it in this application, would be 1,000 feet of taxi lane that would be 35 feet wide. And so the area in red is what we would do with this proposed grant application. The area at the end of the red that's illustrated in kind of the light pink color would be an improvement that G&H Construction, G&H Aerospace would work on in order to get the access to that taxi lane from their facilities. They, Mr. Terry Glass owns the four large warehouse manufacturing facilities. He has about 119,000 square feet in those facilities, and we've been really working hard to try to promote those facilities for economic development. I know in the past I've sent a few people or a few phone calls his way in trying to get those properties leased where he can where we can all benefit by having those buildings better used. You can see in the blue parcels, there's about a total of 1, 2, 3, about 7 parcels that would eventually be serviced by this taxiway extension. 5 immediately, 3 to the south, and then 2 on the north side of the red extension. Those parcels could be leased. Our typical lease rate at the airport is about 10 cents a square foot right now. So we could derive revenue off of those if we go out and try to lease those properties to other users. I know that there's been some interest expressed in some of that property already. Nobody willing to commit yet, but I know that there's some interest. The problem with this application that might present a little bit of difficulty, as I've mentioned in my staff report to you, is that this isn't like a typical Federal Aviation Administration grant. I'll let you know that FAA will not fund this type of improvement at our airport because it's a taxi lane serving properties. It's not on the air side. It's not a taxi. It's not an apron. It's not a major taxiway. It's not an improvement that the FAA would rank very high in terms of funding. In fact, it would. I've been told in meetings with the FAA and the Arizona Department of Transportation that we're better off trying to find other funding to do these kinds of improvements at our airport. So we're not going to have the typical 90% FAA funds and 10% or the other split between the city and the state. This is going to be pretty much a 50-50 split, because in this in my preliminary cost estimates that were obtained by Kimley Horn, the eligible project costs that the state would fund in this particular application would be about $227,110, and the city would have to fund about $236,867 to complete this project. I will tell you that the estimates that we received are probably on the high end. They generally have been. Our estimates on the Randolph Road project were a little higher. Our bids came in a little lower, but we generally estimate high and hope that they come in lower. But so we're looking at about $1 for $1 in this case, a little more than $1 on our side versus the $1 that we're going to get from grant funding. We haven't budgeted this money in this year's budget, and so that's something that you need to consider. We do have, if we're awarded this, and we have no assurances, but if we are awarded it, we have basically 6 months from the award date to commence construction on the project, and we have 18 months from the award date to complete the project. So it would put us into another fiscal year if we needed to find some additional funding to do this, and maybe in another budget, maybe next year's budget. If we look at it next year and next year's budget, and talking with our finance director, you know, you're pretty well committing any of your funds pretty much to this project and nothing else if you looked at this amount of money. So it's not an easy decision on your part, but it is something that we felt was worthy of consideration. If you choose tonight not to support the resolution, I would. This grant was due in their office Friday last week. If you decide not to support this, I will call them tomorrow and tell them to withdraw our application. They did get a copy of the resolution. It's not a signed copy. But I will forward them an approved resolution if you should approve it. There's another round of funding that comes up in April. There's 2 rounds during a fiscal year. The first round is $1 million. The second round is $1 million. So in April, if this isn't chosen for this round of funding, we could resubmit this for the next round of funding. when it comes open.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. So I'd be interested to hear what the council thinks about this. We'll start down here with Council Member Marietta.
I don't have any comments.
I always have a couple. To be honest with you, due to technical issues, I didn't get to see most of this. So I was kind of all for it until I just read that we have to match dollar for dollar and actually go 9,000 more above than what the grant is. I love the airport. I think we do need to progress out there. However, with a bunch of other big projects that we've done and are middle of, and with this not budgeted, I can't see doing that. And that's just where I stand. Yeah, I might be the lone wolf here, but I don't know. I don't think I could support that.
Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I tend to agree with Councilmember Lewis. I think the airport's a great asset. It actually has a lot of potential, and you can see it's going forward. But with the big survey we did, which shows people want us to fix the streets, and this is actually building. We're going to be putting like 236,000. You said into.
That's what we would. That's what we would put in. That would be roughly our commitment.
And that's basically a road, a taxiway, to benefit a few people. Whereas that much money in our streets would go a long ways to putting chip seal and all that. I mean, right now, because that's what we need, and that's what we promised people we would do when we saw the survey. So I tend to, I'd love to see it happen. I don't know how. Maybe in the next round funding, if we didn't have to put up so much. But I think we have to use our funds right now to work on our roads. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hudson.
I agree. I mean, the airport is a great asset to the community and for growth in this area. But you know what? 4 years ago, I said we need to fix our streets, and today I say we need to fix our streets. And 4 years from now, if I get elected again, I say we need to fix our streets. So if we're going to spend $236,000, I think we need to do it in infrastructure instead of the airport.
Stay within the budget.
That didn't surprise me at all. The only thing, well, you've already submitted it, so even if we tried to get 500 feet now, it's too late.
Yeah, the thing is, if you don't support this resolution, I will call first thing in the morning and tell them to withdraw our application. There's no reason for them to consider it if you're not willing to make if you can't make the match, the matching funds that would be required to complete the project. This project is tied to economic development. It's not something that we just thought of that wouldn't be tied to job growth, and that's one thing I didn't probably dwell enough on is that. Mr. Terry Glass wrote a letter of support to us that we included in our application. I think you may have seen those letters of support in there. And he has plans, as well as others, Complete Parachute Solutions, to do some pretty important things at our airport that would create jobs. And so this is one of those things. It's an infrastructure that's going to be necessary to create those jobs. A private party like Mr. Terry Glass couldn't possibly, or anybody else, wouldn't possibly spend the money it would take to fund a complete taxiway all the way around to taxiway A2 or A. It'd be very difficult for one owner to do that. So this was a step to try to ease that burden and try to create some jobs, as he's committing to in his letter. And, Complete Parachute Solutions, they are looking at some expansion. They've done a lot of work out there. There's a lot of good prospects, and they are also interested in a couple of these parcels. When you look at the possibility of recovering some of these monies, you spend the money, but it takes money to make money. We can recover some of these funds potentially, again, like I said, through the lease of these properties, and potentially, if we wanted to write in those lease agreements, that they provide some kind of a payback agreement for the cost of this taxiway. There's a way that we could potentially recover some or all of those costs if we wanted to try to go down that path. But a little too early to tell you tonight whether we'd be successful in that. But those are some ways you could get the monies back if you were to move down this. It's not going to get any cheaper if we waited till April and submit the next round. This is the way the grant is written. It's just, it's a pretty high cost on our side to get a pretty sizable amount of money.
Mr. Miller, I've become a big advocate of the airport, and I'm used to the 5 and 10% matches that we can afford. And I'm in favor of this, but I have to tell you that it's a stretch. On the other hand, we're having an airport study session, I believe.
The next meeting at
Next
6
meeting.
o'clock, workshop on the airport.
Okay, so we can discuss some of the issues and where we want to go with that, I guess, at our study session, as well as, if anything changes, I guess, if this goes down tonight, the way it sounds, it probably will. In April, if there's any changes, then you can always try it again.
Yes. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, I think you had one more comment, Councilmember.
Yes, sir, thank you. I forgot to mention it earlier. It does state in here that there's been no commitment from either CPS or G&H Aerospace as far as assisting in the fundings. I think if this doesn't pass tonight, if we're going to maybe reapproach it for April, I believe you said the next round of grant funding was, that, with the businesses out there who have the most to gain from this financially, at least in the short term, should help out a little bit, in my opinion. So maybe we could spend more. I don't know how much time was put into this. Maybe we could spend some more time with those two organizations, so they seem to be the biggest ones there, and see if there's something they could at least commit to do. Putting this, approving it, and then, like you said, with the hopes of recovering money with possibilities, it's a lot of money that we haven't budgeted for to, bank on a possibility when we really don't know. And no offense to you, Amy, you do a great job.
Once you know that.
But I would definitely like more commitment from, the businesses out there that have a lot to gain from this. So,
The area in pink is a pretty sizable commitment by G&H Aerospace to tie onto this. So you can see that their length is actually longer than what we're proposing. So that's a pretty big commitment by them.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, Rick, does G&H own that pink section?
No, actually, this is the planned taxiway in our master plan.
You can't afford it.
They have this property.
Right, but they don't own that right away, or that taxiway, I guess, yet. But they were talking about funding it to fix it. Right. To connect, right?
Okay.
would it be inappropriate to ask the city manager his opinion on this?
He hasn't volunteered it. I don't know if it would be or not. Mr. Flatley, do you have an opinion on this matter?
I'd say wait till April, talk about it in the workshop, the next meeting, and then also maybe focus on it again in the retreat. But maybe April is a better time to submit.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody have anything else they want to add to the mix? No? All right, in that case.
One thing I might mention is I apologize for this coming up at the last minute. This had to be submitted. I was just getting information about costs and everything else in the middle of last week from Kimley Horn, so I didn't have much information to go by and knowing that this was going to cost this much until just recently myself. So it's not a waste of time what I've done, because we have information now that we can utilize 6 months from now. So appreciate your attention to this.
Mayor? Just want to think, Mary, one of the things we haven't talked about is bonding in the future, if we want to do something like that, where the taxpayers would actually support, roadway construction, roadway repairs, and maybe some airports, or maybe bonds at the airport. I don't know. You have to have a way to pay for them, so you have to be careful with it. Think outside the box like that.
I think we may be seeing some of that for roads if things don't fall the way, for our local roads, if things don't fall the way that they could fall, or, in the next legislative session, we may have to go out and pay, do some bonding for our local streets. So, Okay, I don't think there's anything else left to say. I'm going to look for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw our grant application, item 17, and not go forward with the,
I think it's just deny the resolution.
deny the resolution. There you go. Apologize for that.
No problem.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. It's a roll call.
As a resolution. No?
No, because it failed.
It's going to, I don't think it's going to.
Huh?
It's a motion to deny, not grant the resolution, so we can do it by voice vote.
Oh, you, on a resolution, you voice.
Well, it's a motion to deny it, not to approve it. To approve it, would do a roll call, Mr. Mayor, but the motion that's already received a second is to deny it, not to approve it. So I think we can do that without a roll call.
So we're not creating a resolution.
Right.
That's why, yeah, so we're not creating a resolution, that's why we just vote, voice vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to, being the eternal optimist, I'm going to vote no. So I lose. Okay, thank you. Item 18, consider approval of adopting an updated social media policy for the city of Coolidge for the purpose of establishing guidelines for the use of social media.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, sir.
I'm here to ask that you guys approve the updated social media policy that our attorneys drew up. Currently, we have the police department and the library using social media. A few months ago, I asked to get a policy for the Parks and Recreation Department. When I did, our attorneys decided that they want to update the policy to encompass the entire city and not just each individual department, even though individuals' departments will have their own social media sites. So I'm here to ask that we approve the new or the updated social media policies given to us from our city attorney, so we can go forward with updating our citizens on upcoming events and happenings within the city and the various departments. And I can answer any questions, or if they relate specifically to the policy, the attorney might be able to answer them better than I can, but I'll do my best.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Down here.
Who's going to be the responsible party for monitoring?
Well, I can't speak for every department. I know within my department something will not go on a social media site unless I personally see and approve it.
So each department will have a
Right.
person responsible for monitoring. I read that there will be somebody responsible that has access to posts, but I didn't read who's monitoring.
I will personally, I'm not the most savvy at social media, but like I said, there won't go anything posted from my department or from my staff that I don't approve before it gets put on any of our social media outlets. Unless I'm bad at it, and then maybe somebody else will have to do it.
That's too far in advance, yeah, Rick. Councilmember.
Yes, Ricky, just to be clear as mud here, this has nothing to do with employees and their use of social media off time. This is strictly city social media pages, correct? Because I read the thing, I just want to make sure that that's no hidden.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, the policy you're looking at deals with posting on city social media sites. That does not control employees posting outside. However, that said, there are personnel policies that employees of the city of Coolidge need to be conscientious of before they post anything as a Coolidge city employee.
Okay. I was just making sure that this pertained to this. That's it.
Okay. Anybody have anything down here?
No, I just think it's great. I mean, look what it's done for the police department and posting criminals on there and the arrests that they've made. Everybody looks at Facebook, Twitter, Messenger, and I just think it'd be great to let the citizens know what's going on in the city of Coolidge. And like I said, the police department, how many arrests that they've made, posting
Everyone's
criminals
been
on
successful, I think.
Huh?
They've all been successful, I think.
Yeah.
The PD's looking for people, yeah.
So I think it'd be great.
Gil, do you have anything?
I just think it's a good idea to have it in policy for the whole city. Because it's important, so we have people responsible and what goes on, what goes off, and so there's continuity throughout the procedures.
Councilmember? Okay, that's that for that. Let's need a motion.
Motion to approve is read, sir.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item
Thank you.
number 19. Resolution number 15-31. A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Coolidge, Arizona, adopting a written policy regarding opening invocation before meetings of the Coolidge City Council. Discussion and action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Byron Sanders. I pastor Fairhaven Baptist Church here in Coolidge. I started the church 8 years ago. I came down to Coolidge, moved down here from Scottsdale from my own free will. Some people looked at me funny, thought I was crazy, but I saw the great need in our city here. I'm also the City of Coolidge Public Safety Chaplain, and it's been a privilege and an honor to help out the police department and the fire department. Since January, I've been doing that. And recently, I approached Councilman Huddleston about opening your meetings with prayer or invocation, and so met with or talked with Robert on the phone a few times, and so you guys are put into motion, and so I came tonight if you had any questions. One of the things I would suggest, and this is how I'm involved at the state capitol level, I go down there during session and help with this too, is opening an invocation. It's not more work for you guys to go recruit people. I would work with Miss Norma and give her a list of the ministers, the pastors of the churches in Coolidge, and you guys can recruit, or you can have me ask them. And if I ever ask someone to come, I'd get the okay through Miss Norma and Robert as well. So just thank you for this opportunity, and I think it's a wonderful thing. One of the things I saw and I've noticed in Coolidge is the disconnect between the churches and the local government here, and I feel for that, and I think the churches need to be more involved in our community. So that's what we try to do at Fairhaven. So.
Well, thank you, Reverend. We're glad you're here. You're probably right. We do need to be more involved. All right, I'm going to start down here. Councilmember Marietta.
You just mentioned that either we can recruit or you can recruit.
Yes.
I think, how are we going to decide that?
Well, if you have a pastor or reverend or minister that you want to have, just let me know, and so I won't have to ask anybody that session. If not, I would find someone, and that's how there'd be no miscommunications, no 2 or 3 people showing up at one night.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Marietta, the policy specifically talks about, in the beginning, there'll be a letter sent out to everyone that is, like the Reverend says, people he knows or that are in the phone directory but are within the jurisdictional limits of Coolidge. So I think together they can work at trying to put together that initial list. But then the policy actually has, under subsection H on page 4 of the policy, a letter that would be sent out inviting them to get on the list and to pick dates during the year that they would like to say the invocation. So we'll keep an ongoing list of who's going to be on it, and I think the Reverend can help us tremendously get that initial list put together, but we're also going to try to send letters out and everything like that. And in the policy we use like the phone book, yellow book, but we're going to use social media wherever we can get that list together. So we're trying to be as all-inclusive as possible.
Okay. I read that the letters would be, invitations would be mailed out, but it kind of threw me off when he said either you can recruit or recruit. So I was like, well, who's recruiting?
Well, no, and I appreciate the question, because I think it's going to, in the beginning, trying to put that list together. If you know pastors in the community and things like that, let them to reach out to our police chaplain and to Norma, so we can start putting together that list.
Okay.
This is not a new thing. For 11 years, from 1996, I think it was, until 2007, for 11 years we've had that invocation before the meeting. So it's not a whole new entity.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, sir. I was just going to touch on thing. I do see we had it for 11 years. It tells you pretty much why we started. Why did they stop? What was the issue?
We ran into problems of lining up ministers that wanted. Actually, we started using Nathan Woodbury, who is our IT person, or our video person, to say the invocation, because we just weren't getting a response from the ministers, and so it kind of petered out.
Okay. And if I can say something, as the chaplain, I would be willing to continue it even if we have no involvement from the community. I mean, I'd be willing to come and be involved that way.
And then My next question, I think, is, Dennis, you might want to talk about this. Legal issues. Because I know other cities have had legal issues
Absolutely.
with certain religions that maybe aren't favorable nature, and residents not being too keen on that. So what are the legal issues and what are our plans if that arise?
Mayor Thompson, Councilmember Lewis, that's a great question, and it really kind of goes to the history of this issue. The history of the issue has gone back for many, many years. A couple years ago, there was really kind of a push out there to try to go after cities. I know over in Maricopa we were contacted by groups out of D.C. that were upset with the invocations that were being given there. And so a lot of cities kind of pulled back for a little bit and wanted to wait until the Supreme Court ruled on Town of Greece. And that Town of Greece was clearly a city council meeting, invocation at the start of the meeting, just what we're talking about here. And that case was decided last year, and it really has now set kind of the framework for the policy that you have before you tonight to show that we're going to reach out to everybody. And even in the Town of Greece, they will tell you in the Supreme Court case, they had ministers, all different types of ministers, all from the Town of Greece, though, because some of the people that were trying to argue against the policy said, no, that's not right, because the Town of Greece was mainly a Christian-based town, and that's not right. They should go out and try to get other religions to come in and give an invocation. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not what it's based on. And so the Town of Greece, clearly in that decision, the Supreme Court said, no, you can use your jurisdictional limits of your city and use all of your ministers within your city, but as long as they all have a fair opportunity to come and give an invocation, then it's going to be legal. That doesn't mean they can come in and criticize other religions or anything like that, but they come in and give an invocation that's consistent with the policy that's above you or before you tonight. I think we're going to be fine. Even in the Town of Greece, Greece, there's one night they had a Wiccan minister, I guess, give the invocation, which had to be very different for the council. But they had a ministry in town, they had a church in town, and so I think this policy that's in front of you is based very specifically on the Supreme Court's decision just last year in the Town of Greece. That's kind of what a lot of us have been waiting on, was that. So I think this policy is pretty consistent, and I think if you have any questions, I mean, there's certain things in here that, we limited the invocation to 3 minutes. I don't know if the council is going to find that appropriate. That Supreme Court never said it had to be limited to 3 minutes. That's something that that got put in the policy. Also an opportunity that if the minister who doesn't show up or if a minister cancels, the mayor can ask for a volunteer. Right now the policy says from the audience. And so if you want to change that at all, because one of the council members would want to give the invocation, I think we could change that portion. That's in 4.10. But other than that, I think it's pretty. I mean, there are limitations on how many meetings they can give per year. Each minister can give up to 3 council meetings. In my basic math, now I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician, that looked to be about 12.5% of the total meetings we have during the year. So that might be too low in the beginning. We might find, based on who we get out and who's going to come out, maybe we're going to have to raise that number up to 5, 6 meetings. There's 2 meetings a month, 24 meetings a year.
Is it each person or each church organization?
Each person. Great question. Each person. So yeah, no, exactly. So speakers shall be scheduled, and for the most part, we're going to ask under the policy that they're ministers that are going to come in and give the invocations. But you're right, there could be several from one church.
Your example of the Town of Greece with the Wiccan thing. Now, this is my last question, because I know Councilmember Huddleston would like to talk on this too. If we did that circumstance there's something real similar
You
happening
didn't get
here.
too nervous when I said 3 minutes, so I saw it. I
You
know the
should.
mayor did, but council member was
Maybe-
fine with it.
Maybe 40 seconds. Maybe. But- So if a similar incident like that did happen, what would be our options? Because I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but my faith, I wouldn't sit here and listen to it. I would walk away. Would that be
Right.
something I'm allowed to do without?
Absolutely. And that was kind of a discussion in the town of Greece, because the argument was from the people that were against the invocation. They said, wait a second, this is local government, this is your neighbors, you know everybody. If I don't want to stand, because some ministers you'll see will, when they get up, get ready to do an invocation, they'll say, please stand and pray with me. Some people aren't going to get up. And I think they have every right not to get up. They don't have to. And it's their right to participate. It's their right to go out and not participate. I think council has the same right. And so we don't want people to feel coerced. And I don't think this policy does that. I think this policy respects where the Supreme Court is as it is today. But there was that argument made in the town of Greece saying, hey, wait, just the fact that a city council is praying creates coercion on me if I don't believe in a higher authority, and if I want to go down and ask for a permit. Now, the next thing I know, they know I'm not religious, and they're not going to grant the permit. Those arguments were all made in the town of Greece, and I think the Supreme Court said, wait a second, that's not the coercion that the Constitution was talking about in the Establishment Clause and things like that. People have every right to people are going to know if this policy goes into effect, and I assume the invocation will come sometimes before the Pledge of the Flag, sometimes after the Pledge of the Flag. People are going to know it's going to be part of the agenda, and even the policy itself talks about that we'll put something in the agenda that specifically says that they don't have to participate in it. And so the agenda will have some language based in the policy that we're not trying to coerce anybody to be a part of this. So that will actually be in the agenda, so that, because it talks about, I think in 411, the written agenda document created for the city council meeting will explain to the reader that the invocation is a voluntary expression of the private citizen, is not intended to affiliate the city council with or express the city council's preference for any religious, spiritual organization. So our agenda will have some language that specifically says that.
Okay, because my only concern would be is, while I respect, everyone's freedom of religious choice, I'd want to respect mine by also respecting our positions. I wouldn't want to put the city in a bad light by me choosing to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my concern was. But that should not be an issue if that ever
No,
did
no, no.
arise.
I think people recognize that that's the invocation, and so if you want to come in after the invocation, you can do that. If you want to come in before and participate, you can do that.
That's all I got, sir. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez.
No, I think I certainly support it. I think I liked when Nathan used to do it. Really, it was short, to the point. And I think one time we had somebody that was up there that, when we did have Nathan, that went on and on and on, and everybody was getting uncomfortable with it because it just went so far. And but so I like the fact there's a limit on it for 3 minutes. And so I think it's a very, very good thing to do, and I support it with as long as it passes legal muster and people support it. I think it's fine. So.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, I think the guy sitting in the back, he's smiling a little bit, but he was doing them in Casa Grande for many years himself, Mr. Miller. So
Oh, yeah.
I know he was, between him and Mr. Barber, those guys had a corner on the market on invocations over there.
Councilmember.
I think it's a great idea. It's something I fully support.
Thank you, sir.
The setup for this could not be more beautiful. Number one, I wasn't behind all this anyway in the first place. Byron came to me, but I do thank you so much for bringing it up. I think it's very important. It's crucial. But when I say the setup for this is great, because we just proclaimed Constitution Week 2015. Do you know what we ended the war with? A treaty in Paris that said, in the name of the most holy and undivided Trinity, That's how we ended our war for independence in the revolution. You don't get that from the Quran. You get it from the Bible. You get it from Christianity. Period. The first prayer in Congress ended by saying, "Thy Son, our Savior, based on the merits of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, amen." That's our heritage during Constitution Week. Joseph Story, I pulled out a quote from, he wrote constitutional law commentary, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, said, "The real object of the First Amendment was not to countenance, much less advance, Islam or Judaism or infidelity by prostrating Christianity, but to exclude all rivalry among Christian denominations and to prevent any national ecclesiastical establishment which would give to an hierarchy the exclusive patronage of the national government." In other words, as the First Amendment says, Congress, not city councils, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. That's our heritage. We should not be ashamed of it, nor should we be pushed into a corner because Supreme Court decisions tell us to, because they're politically correct. If I get the opportunity, I want to make a motion that we accept, because it is necessary, but I would like to make that motion that we accept this resolution, but on the stipulation that it is a Christian invocation. That takes care of the whole matter.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, I believe, I mean, I don't know if that would complicate.
Yeah, it would.
That would complicate it.
To me, I think we have a resolution here, and you know, I know the mayor sets the agenda, and one of the things I would say is wherever it was on the old agenda probably should be, what I'm saying, the position, whether it came before or after the pledge, I don't remember. It's been a while. But that's where I would prefer it to be on our agenda. And we have a resolution here that I think we go with this. I don't want to get complicated with some of the things that Councilmember Huddleston says. While I may agree with him or not agree with him is irrelevant. As it is, you know, we're stepping into some territory that there may be some litigation, and I don't want to look for more problems. I think that as time goes on, we can revisit this policy and see if we need to make adjustments.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Huddleston, I would think that we would have a problem if we tweak the resolution to specifically authorize only Christianity, simply because that would, I think, would violate the Establishment Clause, because this council would then be establishing Christianity. I think, and I think in the arguments come a long way, because there used to be an argument that the only prayer that could go before city council meetings were non-sectarian prayers. You couldn't use the word Jesus, couldn't use the word the Holy Spirit. You could talk about a higher power, you could talk about God, but you couldn't use, and clearly that got shot down in Town of Greece. Clearly the Supreme Court said that is not the case. Those are fundamental aspects of the Christian religion that have every right to be in a Christian prayer and to be in an invocation, just like other religions, if they're practiced in the community, those ministers have a right to say their prayers in an invocation. So I think right now the policy is written pursuant to the resolutions to invite anybody in the community that has a religion that's practiced here in the city of Coolidge to come forward and to give the invocation at these meetings. I think if council would be, we could, if council wanted to, we could see how pass this tonight, get our list together with the help of the chaplain, see what we get, see how many people get on the list, see how effective the list is and how well it works, and we can revisit it in maybe 6 months and see what you think about it.
Can I say one more thing? every level of government, state, they pray in both the House and the Senate. Congress prays. And as you'll see as you go on, I know you guys used to pray here in the city. You'll see it. I mean, to my knowledge, there's a plethora of churches in this community, but I don't know any that are of the persuasion that Councilman Gary was talking about, or anybody. And so I don't think it'll be an issue in Coolidge. And I think it's a great opportunity to get some of these churches to active, doing the things that we're supposed to do to help our community. You know, I've seen churches build cities. I've seen it happen. And that's what our desire here for Coolidge is, to churches to come along and help build the city. You talk about businesses bringing jobs. I have people move to town for my church. I do. And so they come and they move. They join our church. They spend their money here. So that's what we're interested in. And not disunity, not causing problems, but just coming along and being a help. And I know life is hard. It could be burdensome, so that's what we want to do.
Go ahead.
Mr. Fitzgibbons, on what you said, is the idea that the literature, the definition of Christianity excludes Catholics and Protestants and Presbyterians and LDS? Because that's pretty much our community has all that in there, and my definition of Christianity includes all of them. So with that said, what's the definition legally?
Well, I don't think there is a legal definition. I mean, I think, and clearly Supreme Court didn't entertain it, and that's kind of part of the way this whole opinion's written is Supreme Court to say we're not there to interpret, nor do we want city councils out there interpreting people's invocations. I mean, whatever minister comes and who practices in the town and gives an invocation should feel free to pray the way he wants to pray, consistent with this policy. So,
all right. Well, based on my idea of what Christianity is, I second Councilmember Huddleston's motion.
So let's make sure we're clear. We have a motion to approve the resolution 1531 with the stipulation that I think we bring back I mean, I think we'd have to evaluate this resolution. I'm not sure exactly where I'd change it, but I think the motion was that it would only allow Christian invocations.
Correct.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to approve 1531, but to modify the resolution to only allow Christian invocations to be given.
Would that be legal?
Well,
I don't think not under the current Supreme Court.
see, and that's my concern. You know, but if they want a motion and they want to vote on it, then let's put it up for a vote, because my concern is I'm a Christian, but I'm not willing to get the city of Coolidge sued over an invocation. So let's put it up and vote on it so we can get that either for or against. So, Norma?
Okay. Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
No.
Councilmember Murrieta.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson.
No.
So 2 no and 4 yes.
Okay. So I guess you'll have to,
I really think we should probably redraft it with only allowing for a Christian invocation, so you guys can look at it. I mean, I understand. I think as I look at the resolution, I don't think I looked at it that way, because a lot of this I think would potentially have to come out, because one of the recitals specifically says the City Council intends to adopt a policy that will not show a purposeful preference of one religious view over another by not permitting the faith of the person offering the invocation to be considered when extending an invitation or scheduling participation. I think all of that would have to be taken out.
well, Mr. Fitzgibbons, I can tell you that I make no secret of, like I say, I'm a Christian, but I'm not going to get the taxpayers of Coolidge sued. Myself, if somebody came up and I had a problem with what they were preaching, I would walk away or not pay any I mean, I wouldn't be rude, but my problem is, you know, we don't want to do certain things for certain things, and that's why we have a council. But we're willing to go ahead knowingly become involved in litigation over something that clearly we can't afford. But since saying that, it's 4-2, so I guess we need to rewrite it.
Right. I think if council's okay, I can rewrite it and we can present it at the next council meeting. I mean, it's a 4-2 vote, I understand, but I think it's going to have to be, the council wants it to be limited to a Christian invocation. And so I think it's going to take some, I understand the direction I received from council. I just think it'd be better if I can redraft this resolution, get it for council one more vote, if that's okay.
So what, you want to take back the vote and wait? And
No. I think the vote has given me the direction. I just think council,
So you're gonna
to
bring a new-
approve this resolution with the changes I'm going to have to make, I think council's given me direction on how they want to proceed. I'm just asking for the leeway to bring it back at the next meeting so you can review it and approve it one last time.
Sounds fine to me.
It'd be almost like a second reading, if you would.
Mr. Mayor?
How appropriate. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I can, you know, I have the same concern the mayor does. I mean, I'm the Grand Knight for the Catholic Church, the Knights of Columbus. So I mean, it's you know, I'm all about the religion and everything, but I don't want to get the city of Coolidge in trouble in a legal case with the Supreme Court. I mean, you know, it's when we took our oath of office, we sort of uphold the laws of the state of Arizona and the United States. That's true. And so, if the attorney can write it up in a way that does that, that'd be great. And don't get me wrong, I support, you know, the prayer and everything, but I just think I share the mayor's concern that we may be getting ourselves in trouble, so long as the attorney can write it up a certain way.
Well, there's a reason the city of Maricopa did away with it they didn't want to fight the fight.
And
They have a lot more money than we do.
And I feel the same way. I don't want to get sued either.
No,
But
City
Well,
of
that's-
Maricopa didn't get away with it. We didn't do away with it.
Are they still doing it?
Huh? No, they went to a system where all the
So they went to what we had in our policy.
they went to a policy similar to this, but it's not been accepted. I think they'll accept a similar policy to this, but they went to a system where they called all the ministers in town, and each one had an opportunity to come forward, like this policy is written.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm for doing it, but I'm not for spending more money on attorneys.
that's
It's
why
a
we
risk
pay-
either
That's
way.
why we pay him, is to make sure we don't get into this
Yeah.
problem, so.
Oh, you're going to get into this problem.
Yeah.
And if we're going to get into this
Afraid
problem,
of.
then
Yeah, that's
you
what I
will.
was afraid
we
of.
should be doing it.
I think it's a problem we welcome.
Money.
Okay, then that's that, I guess. Now we'll need a report from the mayor and council. We'll start down here with Councilmember Murrieta.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay, Councilmember Lewis?
I didn't do that. The only thing I did, I hit up City Hall and bartered for cookies, but that's about it.
Narrows it down. Councilmember Lopez?
Thank you, Mayor. Along those lines, the Knights of Columbus and the Lions Club are having a joint scholarship golf tournament this weekend coming up. So if those of you want to donate to it or want to support it, you're more than welcome to contact one of us. I know Steve Hudson, myself, Ralphie, some of the other members of the Lions or the Knights. And it's to support scholarships in the city. So I just wanted to let everybody know that's occurring. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Hudson?
You took my thunder, so I don't have
There
anything
you
else
go.
to say.
Right. Mr. Flatley?
All right. This Wednesday is the Chamber Luncheon. I believe the speaker is someone from Arizona Lottery that's going to be speaking. Thursday, there's an important public hearing, if any of you can make it. It's at Central Arizona College, anytime between 5:30 in the evening and 7. It's a public hearing on the intercity rail routes. The final two routes that they've narrowed down from a whole number of route possibilities. Both of them really favor Coolidge because both of them come through Coolidge. But it's important that we show up and we show that we are concerned and that we are supportive. So the public hearing is at Central Arizona College in the building with the clock on it, the M101 room, and just testify that you are in support of the remaining 2 routes, both of which come through Coolidge and will greatly benefit us in the future. And one of the reasons I think they chose those routes is because we're the only city with a transit system, and obviously people need to get to the train, and if we have the bus system to bring people to the train, I think that was a good reason why these routes were chosen. Then next week, on the 21st, this isn't for everybody, I guess it's just staff. We're going to begin developing a regional transportation plan under the Sun Corridor MPO, and that's something we'll do at the courthouse, the old historic courthouse in Florence. But on Tuesday, we have our CEDC meeting at Artisan Village, and CMAC's representative will talk. Wednesday, Mayor, you and I go up to Apache Junction for the CAG Regional Council meeting. And then lastly, on Friday, the Historic Museum opens its doors for the first time this year. So they've got a whole new board, and they're very active now. They have a newsletter. So it's a good group.
Thank you, Mr. Falley. Well, ordinarily I would just adjourn because I know Councilmember Hudson's chomping at the bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys tell you what I've done as your mayor since our last meeting. I've welcomed the veterans group to the Coolidge at the Elks for veterans training on veterans benefits. I participated in cutting the ribbon at Walmart at their reopening. I met with the director of CAG, who will be visiting. Bob was with me on that. Went to a Sun Corridor MPO meeting where we got over $300,000 in funds to work on the Main Street project, or the Main Street Road. Attended the Cabot 9/11 ceremony. Saturday I was at the Coolidge Youth Football opening ceremony. And I attended the Coolidge Youth Council meeting where they cram like 12 people up here. So that's what I've done since the last meeting, plus having 2 office days and interviews during that day, the full day with citizens. So I just wanted everyone to know that, because very seldom do I mention how my 2 weeks go, and that's generally how my 2 weeks go. So I thank everybody for their cooperation, some good discussion. I'll see us all in court, and now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
You're right. Move to adjourn, Mayor.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.